The Epic of Gilgamesh, Tablet 2. Gilgamesh versus Enkidu. Enkidu and Shamat were on their way to Uruk. Enkidu, the wild man, and Shamat, the exalted harlot, were on their way to Uruk. As they traveled, they took several breaks for affectionate encounters that once again lasted for several days and several nights. They stopped to rest at a shepherd's camp, and all of the shepherds gathered around them in amazement to see Enkidu. They marveled at his sight and specifically compared him to their king Gilgamesh. They praised Enkidu's height, his stature, his strength, and his build. They placed food and beer in front of the couple. Now Enkidu had never tasted human food. He was a wild man. So for him it was the first time tasting the bread and beer. Enkidu decided not to eat the bread because he was very confused. But here comes Shamat again. He convinced them to taste the bread and take a sip of beer. In fact, these were elements that were essential to humans and considered sacred dishes. So Enkidu ate as much bread as he could and drank 7 goblets of beer. And now Enkidu felt inebriated and joyful. He even started singing. And this is when a barber offered to cut his hair and groom him. Remember, Enkidu was a wild man. He was full of extremely long hair like a woman and an extremely long beard. Enkidu was now shaved and anointed with oil, and they brought him sophisticated garments. He now looked like a real man and not a wild man. In his new garments, he decided to pick up a spear and go hunting for lions to prove his manlyhood. After the hunt, Enkidu returns to Shamat for more affection. While Enkidu and Shamat were in their embrace again, they see a young farmer running by, and he asked Shamat to call the fellow. He was curious to where the man was going, and what this man tells him enrages Enkidu. This man was rushing off to a local wedding. He tells Enkidu that at the wedding there was going to be music, food, dancing, and then he told them this ritual that they have in the city of Uruk, where the bride does not go to sleep with her husband. Her first night she passes with the king of the city, with Gilgamesh. This was a custom of Uruk, where the bride did not lose her virginity to her husband, but to the king. And the fellow stressed that it was the gods themselves that proclaimed this rule in Uruk. This custom was decided for Gilgamesh from the very moment his umbilical cord was cut. Since his first drawn breath, every woman belonged to Gilgamesh, with no exceptions. Enkidu tells Shamat that they are now in a hurry to get to Uruk. And the minute they reached the town square, people started to gather around them in amazement, marveling at Enkidu. Much like in Gilgamesh's dream, these people were stunned to see Enkidu. One of his statue was only seen in Gilgamesh before him. The city folk were already comparing him to Gilgamesh. Basically, they were saying that Gilgamesh was taller, but Enkidu had more of a robust build to him, and he was very, very ripped. Accurately concluded that the man before him was fed off of the milk of the beasts. Now the city folk were telling Enkidu about the festival of sacrifice that they have, where they would get a strong man to offer as competition to their king, but no one so far had ever survived. People were wondering that if they chose Enkidu as their champion to face their king, if he actually had a chance to beat him. It was about time that the bride was about to be taken as the maiden of the king. This was the moment that Gilgamesh was to practice his right and take the maiden. This is when they laid the bride on the goddess bed, awaiting Gilgamesh to arrive. However, this time Gilgamesh didn't even pass the door because Enkidu was blocking his path. There was no staring down of the opponent this time, and neither of the two men actually stopped to think for a second if they could beat their opponent. This time Enkidu did not declare to his opponent that he was the strongest man alive. Enkidu blocked the door to the bedroom with his foot